Are we on?
Yes, streaming.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rick Zanotti, and I'm joined today by my good friend, co host, and pretty much, she's a visionary. She knows what's going on, Dr. Susan Nash. And today we are going to be talking about maybe a little bit about the current state of affairs economically. What's happening? What's happening that they're not telling us about, which you can find out just by reading things. Anyway, here we go. This is eBizChat. This show is sponsored by Relate Corporation, Digital Learning, Corporate Video, Learning Design, and Management Consulting. Visit us at www.relatecasts.net. Thanks. And hi, everyone, and hi, Susan. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great. I'm really glad to be here in a new place. You can see the background is
Yeah,
different.
congratulations on your new place. And how were
And
your
thank you.
holidays? This is Happy New Year's. This is our
Um,
first show back.
my holidays were great because I had a deadline that I had to be out. So otherwise, I would have dragged out the move for probably 8, 10 months. So it forced me to get everything out, get in boxes, get out of boxes. So it's all good.
It is all good, but there's
And
nothing worse than actually moving during the holidays. It's like, I have no time for
oh my
anything.
goodness,
Yeah.
yeah,
It would-
I don't even I can't even think of what my holidays were because they weren't.
Yeah. But it's a new year. 2023 is bound to bring us more joy and happiness from our economy. And no, we're just joking. Uh, there's a lot of stuff going on in the economy that doesn't get covered much in mainstream media. Pretty much most of it
Hmm.
doesn't get covered. One thing that's big, and that's coming, and nobody's really paying a lot of attention to it, and that's foreclosures. I'm
Oh,
hearing more and more talk about foreclosures and how the real estate market is really crashing at this point. It's in probably the first level of crashing. It's been going down. I'll give you an example. The house we're renting, we moved up to Idaho last year, about 6 months ago, and the house we were renting cost 550,000. If you looked at to buy it, we're renting. Well, 6 months later, according to all the different real estate sales networks, it's about 430, 550, 430 in 6 months. It's a pretty big drop, 110, 20,000. And it's still dropping. Everything around here. Boise was the most overvalued state, well, actually, city and state in the country. 73% overvalued. That's a lot.
whoa.
73. They led the nation in overvalued. California was between 40 and 50% overvalued, even though California gets away with it because of the great climate. Nothing else but great climate. And that's a big sell to a lot of people, a big draw, but it's not necessarily a good thing otherwise. There's a lot of political mayhem and evil and whatever else you want to call it. Just a mess. Um, but foreclosures are coming, and they're coming bad. They're estimating there's going to be millions of foreclosures because people just bought when things were very high, and they're going to be upside down. And it's
Hmm.
just going to be. And they said when the foreclosures hit, that could damage the economy way more than just about anything else because it's such a big part of the economy. Um, you've been through the sales
Well,
process recently. You and I both sold houses last year,
yes.
and we all lost a little bit. It's just because it was going down, but it we I think both you and I missed the buyer's market. I think I we got in just at the very end of it, barely.
Oh,
And
I have only myself to blame. I was dreading moving. And so by dreading moving for about a year, but I wasn't ready. So I became emotionally ready and I paid for it. But I have a little bit of a different perspective. So yes, I think there will be foreclosures. Um, and also I think that buying obviously is going to be expensive because
mhm.
if one wants to as buy with a loan. However, there's still a shortage of housing and the population continues to increase. So I personally think that what's going to happen is a lot of investors will end up buying the foreclosures and turn them into rentals.
And that has started happening. And they're saying that it's going to be a lot more rentals. Well, of course, part of that current administration and current possible leaders of administration with all this, Build Back Better and everything else, they don't believe you should. What is it? Klaus Schwab says you will own nothing and be happy. Okay, thanks, Klaus. Why don't you give up everything too? But that's another issue. So we're seeing a lot of that. So that's creating a little instability in the market or whatever else. But you're right. Houses are still holding up some value in some places. Some places are really not doing that well. Other places are still holding up and doing fairly well. But there is now an inventory of housing that wasn't there before, and not enough
Right,
buyers.
that's exactly right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing too that to keep in mind, so I ended up selling my condo as is
Hmm.
because I was taking a I was giving a big discount, and to go in and repair things, you're just looking at almost an unknown cost
Hmm.
anymore.
Yeah.
And the house that I renovated, I'm so glad I did when I did because yes, there have been variabilities. Maybe lumber's gone up and down, and glass is not as hard to find as it was. But with inflation, it is definitely more expensive. So I just wonder if there is that kind of elasticity downward. I mean, how far down and will real
Well,
estate
what I've been
realistically drop?
reading from some of the top real estate analysts, it's a little scary. They're thinking things are going to go down below 2008 value. That's pretty low.
Ooh,
That's pretty low. I don't know how accurate or not, but that's what they're seeing. They're seeing trends, and again, in certain areas, not the whole country, because some areas are
mhm.
always going to be stronger than other areas, but it's going down. It's going to go down. I don't know. 2008's right before we had the last bust, and so we're definitely not in a boom right now. We're heading downwards, and then add to that layoffs. There's been a lot of layoffs. I always laugh when any president, no matter who they are, says the economy is great. We're doing better than ever. We've got more jobs than ever. Did you read the papers in the last month? There's been tons of layoffs, huge layoffs. Amazon laid off 18,000. I think that was one of the first times
Well,
they've
and
done that.
okay, so I was looking into that.
Yeah.
They laid them off from their warehouses, but here we have this issue of a post-COVID economy, and people are
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Oh, people have changed forever. COVID has changed people forever."
Mm-mm.
And it's like every time they make these blanket statements, they always tend to be exaggerations.
Yeah.
And so, is everybody really buying frantically with all of their
Mm-mm.
money they're getting for staying at home? No, they're not.
No.
And like, where are people still, um, oh, sorry.
Hello.
Sorry about that. I,
It was
anyway,
such a
so are they,
relaxing ring. I like that ring. It was very like, oh, that was charming.
I usually turned it off. I forgot.
That's fine.
But at
Um,
any rate, I guess my point is that it's funny how we seem to have these whipsaws back and forth, and then these dramatic, even more whipsaw predictions.
mhm.
Thankfully, they never seem to um, go to where they claim. But then you're talking about what we're not talking about, what people are not talking about. How about the volume of money just racing towards security and high interest rates
Hmm.
and annuities and CDs?
That's true because people still feel that's safe, somewhat safe.
Well, it's relative. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to think that the money in the mattress is the right good idea, and have everything in form of things you could eat or wear. It's like,
It may not be
but
a it may not be
how
a bad
long?
idea. Well,
Well,
look at
it took me
retail.
like a year and a half to work through all my trail mix from the COVID panic.
Oh, that's funny. But there are indicators. For example, they said this year's retail for Christmas, for example, was poor. It wasn't
Oh,
good. A lot of
really?
major resellers said it was just awful. The retailers, not resellers. Um, Amazon, like we said, 18,000 just laid off. Quite a large
Mm-hmm.
number in Amazon Web Services, which you'd think right now would be doing better than ever. They're having problems with that. I'm not sure why. I was actually shocked by that number. And the rest was Alexa. So that's sort of interesting. Those were the biggest departments hit. It wasn't the warehouses, though they are
Oh,
closing. I mean, they just opened huge warehouses, million, 2 million, 2 mile long buildings, and they're closing them. They just opened them. So something weird is
well,
going on at Amazon.
it's not completely weird when you think of what was predicted. I remember last July I was in a conference in a presentation by the Dallas Fed, and they were talking about the goal is to destroy demand. I mean,
Mm,
okay, he wasn't that blunt, but the raising the interest rate, the idea was to stop inflation. How? By making it too expensive to borrow to purchase. And so, and then also when you
brilliant.
see that yeah, well, I mean, it does if you have,
Yeah.
if that's really what's causing inflation, which is um, too few dollar, just if that's really what's causing inflation is money supply, then maybe that would work. But if it's supply chain or other things like
Mm-hmm.
energy costs, it's
Right.
different.
Right. Yeah. For some odd reason, Idaho has some of the cheapest energy on the country. We're shocked still that compared to other places, it's really cheap up here, and it's pretty good. But it's interesting. I heard yesterday that they announced that inflation went down just slightly. They didn't say how slightly, but it's also not true inflation because they're saying it's about a little under 7 right now. All the real analysts are saying we're 15, possibly 20. And
Hmm.
I still think we're really, if you look at economics the way they were looked at, not that 20, 30 years ago, we're probably at about 50 to 100% inflation at the rate we're going because we've printed. If you look at money like a valuable asset, right now it isn't. There's nothing behind it. It's just made up money. We just make it up. We would be at 1,000% inflation with the trillions that we've printed. So it's kind of interesting. How do you really judge inflation? And by the way, Susan is an
Well,
economist, so she knows something about this.
yeah, I mean, okay, so in the past, strategies against inflation were to purchase real property
Mm-hmm.
and to hedge. Unfortunately, that's not really working out, looking like the best approach right now because real estate is actually dropping
Yeah.
as a result of the interest rates going up, et cetera.
Yeah.
So we have like stagflation. What really works in stagflation? I mean, what really, I think what really seems to grow are things that have rapid inventory turnover where you can keep up and you're offering a good deal of things, services and products that people have to have.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is usually the margins are razor thin. So,
And that's what made
uh,
Amazon so much money. They never had big profit margins if you look at it. They've always been on the razor thin side. But Amazon's done some weird stuff. For example, I never really understood why Amazon wanted to have their own delivery force. They're not that good. They have a lot of problems. They ship late. They're not doing well on delivery, on shipping. And they know it.
yeah. And another experiment that Amazon has been doing, which I don't know how successful they are, but they have the Amazon Basics or the Amazon
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Essentials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they're trying to compete instead of, because in the past with Amazon Marketplace, they just
Yeah.
take a percentage and they're just
Mm-hmm.
basically the broker.
Yeah.
But in actually owning, I guess they feel there's more margin. There could be, but there's also more risk.
And a lot of the Amazon basics are good for the most part, and you get a good price for it. I don't think they build most of it. I think they just brand it. That's all.
You're right. It's white label stuff. Like I
They're,
got some
yeah.
batteries.
Mm-hmm. Right. They're OEMing it from somebody. And It's interesting, and we've bought quite a few Amazon basic products like cables and stuff. They work. They're really good quality.
Hmm.
They're competing against other vendors who they probably get the products from, which is sort of interesting. Um, but Amazon is just one indicator, and Bezos was very dire in his predictions about a month ago about how we're just going to die. It was like, what happened to Bezos? It was just really weird. He was predicting the dire end of everything. And it's like
Yeah.
that was a very odd message from him. It was actually pretty panicky sounding, and it didn't sound like him doing that.
Hmm.
It's okay. So what's really going on at Amazon? I don't know. And he did step down. He's not running it operationally anymore. So,
Well, they've definitely gotten into areas of risk. And
hmm
then we were talking about Amazon Web Services. Well, for them to do well, they have to have large clients and provide the cloud services. And they've got some pretty big competitors. They've got
yeah,
Microsoft
hmm
and they have Google for that matter.
yeah,
And those are, and then they have other, in certain other areas, they have data providers like Snowflake
mm-hmm.
and Databricks. And so I don't think that, while their economies of scale are challenging, they have to have massive projects and massive clients. And where are those massive clients? And what are they doing?
Yeah,
I don't, it would be interesting to take a look at that.
yeah. So that's just one major retailer. There's a lot. CVS pharmacies. They're going to shut another. I think they shut for about 400 stores in 2022. There's going to be over 900 in 2023, maybe more. That's current estimate. They've expanded so fast, so hard. Again, COVID
Mhm.
driven. Oh, we have to do this, this, and this, and now they don't have any market. They still have about 9,000 stores left, but even many of those are up for grabs. I haven't heard anything about Walgreens having layoffs, or so they must be doing something a bit better. They have less stores, but they haven't closed any that I know of. I tried doing some research. I couldn't find much on them. Um, the major retailers, Macy's, Walmart, they're struggling right now. Macy's doesn't inventory that much in stores anymore. You go to Macy's and they
Mhm.
tell you go online. You'll find it with Macy's online. So they've got these huge, big, nice anchor stores with nobody going to them. So we're
Right.
definitely running into some really odd problems that we haven't had to this level in quite a while. So yeah, I'm wondering what do you think is one of the biggest things affecting consumers right now?
Well, I think inflation is the number one thing.
Okay.
And people are just, they just can't, they're having difficulty paying for food and basic essentials. And so what that does is it cuts out all the other types of spending, which would be eating out and then also remember we had a lot of pent up tourism.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that's probably by the wayside now. So who knows how the hotels are going to be doing? But they were
Yeah.
just packed. And
Mm-hmm.
then I've been working on what should I do with this? Not again.
Hello.
Anyway, I'm so sorry. I usually turn off the stupid phone. And anyway, um, so I think that, well, we're going to see major changes in travel, business travel. We're having some serious meltdowns with.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's temporary with air travel,
Well, we had one
and
just
we're
just
having.
yesterday. What was it? Or the day before? 3 hours down because of a supposed database, a corrupt database file or index, something like that. It can happen, but it hasn't happened before, which is sort of interesting. Um, and a lot of people, you've got different camps. Some people say, "Oh dear, what an accident." Other people are saying this is all planned. Who knows?
Right.
I think there's some truth in both of that, in both of them.
Well, and then one thing area that I've been working in is the area of cleanup of
Mm. Mm.
orphan wells, abandoned wells,
Yeah.
cleaning up leaky methane. And the Department of Interior has dedicated $4.8 billion dollars toward that. And it's not just the cleaning up, but it's also monitoring and also developing databases.
Mm,
And I think that ultimately that information can be used to better uh, have fewer flares, better use our resources.
right.
And also in the meantime, as usual, there's like a lot of enthusiasm because there is that short-term government push.
Hmm.
But what I've seen in the past is that when the government incentives go away, it's not sustainable.
No, no. Well, look at what happened with most of the green energy. It's a flop. It's mostly flopping everywhere because it's sustained by the government. And as soon as any administration comes in or cuts or does whatever else, it's over. Because one, it doesn't, for example, windmills, they don't supply enough power to really manage large states. They tried something similar in California. They ran out of power with them. Okay, let's do something else. So it's just not there yet, and I don't know if it'll ever be there. So that's definitely an issue. Food prices. Let's talk about food. Food
Well, and the
prices.
drought. Okay,
Yeah.
I think part of the drought, so this like huge drought throughout the West has impacted it. Plus
Mm-hmm.
avian flu,
Yeah. Yeah.
transportation costs.
Yeah. Everything. Yeah. You'd go. We flew to from here to Salt Lake City the other day, and the tickets were like $350 round trip, and like 350. It's like a 300 400 mile flight. It's really not that long. It's 50 minutes. That's a lot of money for just a short hop, skip, jump kind of flight. And you're looking at some of the long distance flights, and you're getting near 1,000 on some of them. That's like, wow, what happened? That's just to go to New York or anywhere else.
Oh yeah,
It's expensive, and business travel's down.
very expensive.
A lot of though the
Hmm.
airports are full. When we were
Yeah.
running around airports, they are jammed. It's pretty interesting. So on the one hand, people are going somewhere. On the other hand, businesses aren't going that much. Most of what we saw were just there were business people, but not that many.
Right. The last time I've traveled, I've noticed it's been teams and families and some business, but well, you can't really tell because not everybody travels in business clothing. But it's just really challenging. And then why are they traveling? How what are they going to do? Where are the business opportunities? People are definitely trying to minimize.
Yeah.
I don't think that Zoom conferences are going to go away anytime soon. People use conferences to be sure they want them to be shorter,
Yeah.
and they want them to get to like productive meetings and connections quickly.
Hmm.
Cut to the chase fast.
Yeah. Now, if you had to give one before we wrap it up, if you had to give one bit of advice to consumers and or even businesses, either one, what would you give right now as one major piece of advice to either do, watch out for, or run from?
Well, I'd say be diversified and don't panic. I think that right now the panic mongers are taking advantage of people.
Hmm.
And if it sounds too good to be true, just believe your gut instincts. It is too good to be true. And just due diligence on everything.
Yeah, probably a good idea. Definitely a good idea. Uh, you, I would say at this point, don't trust much of what you hear on TV or anywhere else. Do research. Don't just assume that your favorite news guy is telling you what's right. They're not usually. They're usually making half of it up anyway. And remember, there's a lot of people like you just said, that are just fear mongering. And that
Yeah.
works. It works really well. Look at COVID. People believed everything they said. And now they're finding out, oh, yeah, did we do a lot of things wrong? And did we lie? And did we create vaccines that don't do anything? Yeah, they're all admitting it. The CDC admits, well, the vaccine really doesn't do anything. But it made Pfizer a lot of money and some other things. So don't just believe everything you hear. Be a little more critical. And remember, the only way people can control you or control your finances is through fear. And that's the biggest
It's,
way people are controlled.
it's so true. And also, people forget that change equals opportunity.
Hmm.
So just always keep your eyes open and be flexible and learn as much as you can so that you can take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, I lived in Argentina in 77 through 1980 when they had about 1 to 300% inflation. People made fortunes during that time. So while most of the people on the street were going, life sucks, we're terrible, other people were going, I'm making a fortune. They were investing smartly. They played the market. They played well. And they didn't let the fear bother them. They just invested. They did whatever they had to. They continued building, growing, doing. It's risky, but that's what made business work. So it is interesting. You don't have to give up. Keep going. Keep trying. And don't assume that the world is coming to an end tomorrow. Maybe day after, but not tomorrow. You still have some time.
Hmm.
Enjoy that last day. Well, anyway,
Well, and
well,
what's the worst case scenario? Your family has your children have less to fight over.
right. That's that's funny. That's true. That's true. So if you're planning on dying soon, be careful, and your kids will be happier because you won't have much. So that's good. That's real good. Anyway, well, folks, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you like the show, put a thumbs up down there somewhere. Subscribe. We're actually getting more subscribers. We finally hit over 1,000, which is fun. We never went after
Yay!
subscribers. It's just sort of fun watching it go up and going, oh yeah, somebody's watching. That's fun. And and also, what do you hit that bell icon? That tells you when we're having a show again. We're not 100% regular right now. Both Susan and I have had enough work issues and things that we have to deal with that we're sometimes not available, but we try to be available. And we've got a whole mess of shows coming up real soon. So stay tuned. We're going to have a lot more coming, and we wish all of you a very good New Year. Make the best of it. Don't run from it. Make the best of it.
Absolutely.
So it's time for the outro. Let's see if I hit this button right. These
Maybe
buttons
I'll get a phone call.
yeah. All right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you next week.